King on screen. But
Yes, good segue to
um,
that. King on screen. The next theatrical entry, Robert, is
Cujo. I don't know why I'm saying it like
Cujo.
that. Yeah,
Cujo, the
Cujo.
Saint Bernard with a sad case of the rabies.
Oh, it is a little sad. So,
It is.
but yeah. So it was 83 movie. The novel came out a couple years before, and I was kind of looking into it. And so when I was kind of thinking about the serendipity, we're talking about like one thing leads to another, whatever. So King has talked about part of his inspiration is that his motorcycle needed fixed, and somebody said, "Oh, so and so up on the hills could do it for you cheap or whatever." And so same thing. He said he went to this, and he could hear him working in the barn, and he turned off the cycle and stepped off, and this huge Saint Bernard came out, and he said, "Oh, he likes people. Don't worry about him." And I think King reached for the dog or whatever, kind of not knowing, and the dog went to snap at him. And he says, and this now sounds awful, that the owner had a wrench and just smacked the dog on the back behind just
Oh
to
no.
keep him from biting Stephen King's hand.
Yeah,
But he said that what one of the inspirations for Cujo. So, but I always find it interesting
interesting.
because Cujo is now just part of our you people that don't if you don't even know the movie, Cujo, like, oh, it's a Cujo
Oh
dog,
yeah,
like
growing up before I even saw it,
y-
you would know the
yeah,
reference like
yeah.
Cujo. Yeah, it's in our
But it's
lexicon.
it's funny if Stephen King did not take his cycle that day to get fixed at this particular person, we would not have Cujo.
Isn't that
So
amazing though? That everything's
it
related
is,
and
yeah.
it's like we have
It's
Cujo.
all these little things lead to the other. So, but
Yeah.
King also says he barely remembers writing this book at all because he was at the height of his alcoholism. So,
Right. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that. He doesn't remember writing it. You're like,
But he says it
wow.
seemed to have turned out well.
Yeah,
So,
it did keep drink more. It was
yeah,
great. I do
but
remember this was one of the works that it was yeah, out of his mind. And um Cujo also we've both read the novel and
mhm,
I've only seen Cujo about two times, three
mhm.
times. Enjoyed it.
Oh,
I'm definitely due for a rewatch, but does it hold up still with
it does. I was obviously an 80s kid, and so I didn't see it in the theater, but it was then on
yeah.
cable, and so we watched it many times, because it was also the height of kind of King and horror on screen. And so
Yeah.
and it reminded me there's pieces and it could be because I think I was always watching that and Psycho 2 around the same time. They were both kind of released that same, so they were always kind of together, and they kind of have the same feel, and they have a couple of similar overhead shots that I remember that Psycho 2 has,
Oh,
the
yeah.
diner, and then when his friend gets attacked, they kind of have some good overhead shots, which seems very Hitchcockian to me.
It does. It does.
Um, but yeah, so to me, it still holds up, and it is a little bit different now watching as an adult because as a 13, 14-year-old, the whole she's having an affair, whatever, just seems pointless. Like what are we? Who care? Like
That's what I never really
it-
liked about
yeah,
the story. I'm like, it doesn't really serve a purpose. Like
it doesn't. But um, and they'd probably in nowadays. Well, we talk about that, but uh, they have all this character development. Cujo, you know what's going to be happening. You kind of see bits and pieces, but things don't
right.
get going until obviously halfway through the second act. Whereas nowadays, if you don't start, with Cujo killing somebody in the opening prologue, then people are gonna be like, "Come on,"
Right.
But
Yeah.
it is good character development, and so you kind of build up because you care even more, obviously, kind of about
Right.
these people and so forth. But it's also interesting because she's also made to be kind of unlikable, which is
Yes.
unusual.
Yeah.
That because she's like, "What are you doing? You have a good husband, and like
Yeah.
what are you
Dee
doing?
Wallace. And
Messing
her
around,
husband wasn't a
messing around."
slouch.
No, no, he seemed to be, he
The
had
guy she's
one,
having an affair with was like this schleppy.
yeah, a tennis player,
Yeah.
something like
He
that.
looked like
That
a construction
yeah,
worker from the 80s or something.
who was her real husband in real life at the time.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's Christopher Stone. So if you see
Ah.
Dee Wallace Stone, so they were married so he passed away in like 95, a heart attack, and so they
Oh.
were married that whole time. So,
Oh.
or
Tad, the
from that,
son, also made a recurrence in it was Tad, right?
Tad,
Tad came
Tad,
back
yeah,
in Tad came back in what Stephen King's "You Like It Darker" book, one of the short
Oh,
stories
oh
last
yeah,
year.
okay. Oh yeah,
The father did. The father was the main
the father did.
character.
Yeah.
It
So
wasn't based on has nothing to do with Cujo or a dog, but
no,
he moved to Florida in the story, and it was
gotcha.
he didn't need to recycle it, but he did. And
No.
Tad
Well,
is in it in a ghosty way. It's kind of cool.
so this is a Castle Rock film, meaning this is not the first book, but this is the first movie to take place in Castle Rock.
Oh,
So
cool. I did not know that.
Castle Rock is used in Dead Zone and Needful Things and Stand By Me, and so I think in Stand By Me they even talk about Cujo. I can't remember if it's the
They
book
do.
or the movie
The book they
or both. Okay,
the movie they allude to the dog.
okay,
But the book they absolutely mention the
or
Cujo.
something. I feel like that
I'm
came
pretty
up or something
sure.
like that. But
Good
and
call.
then and so speaking of the book, and I forgot about this, but so this is supposed to take place after the Dead Zone, and so and now I completely forgot the bad character's name in the Dead Zone, the killer. Anyway, so Cujo is not supposed to be just a rabies things, but he was supposed to be inhabited by an evil force or possessed by. And so when Tad is also scared, of the boogeyman or whatever, it's supposed to be uh, whatever that character is in the Dead Zone that I can't remember off the top of my head. So
The Dead Zone with Christopher Walken.
yeah, yeah. Who's remember the sheriff? He ends up killing himself, unaliving
Bannerman.
himself. Yeah,
Bannerman.
yeah, Bannerman. Yeah.
Yes, that right. He was supposed to be interesting. I forgot about that.
Um, so anyway, that's kind of like, and it's the same thing, like when there's a something scary happens in kind of your hometown and so forth. But I think no, Bannerman's the sheriff.
Bannerman's the sheriff. He wasn't the bad guy.
So Frank Dodd was the
Dodd. Yes.
Dodd, yeah, was the he killed the girl and so forth. But
Yes.
so this is supposed to take place after, and I think in the original script, I think they were actually supposed to
Interesting.
even kind of mention that, but then I think the Dead Zone obviously came out after this, and so audiences wouldn't put it all together. But anyway, so it's all related in the Castle Rock universe.
Interesting.
But
I got to rewatch it. But it certainly is a good. I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the book especially. Book is a little darker. We won't give
too much away, I
too
won't
much
say
away,
that, yeah,
but
but it's a
the ending is very different.
darker ending. We'll just say that. So,
Darker ending. We'll
yeah.
leave it there.
So
Directed.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Lewis Teague was the director, and he got this based on I think Stephen King saw Alligator. So Alligator's more of a spoof
Yeah.
type, not quite a spoof, but
Yeah. It's campy.
yeah. And so it's interesting
I
because
do like Alligator, by the way.
yeah, it's a good film, but
Yeah.
Cujo is not Alligator.
No.
This is not a funny movie at all. But it's
Right.
interesting that it was a good selection. I think he did a great job. And actually, he wasn't the original. The first director and cinematographer worked 2 days, then quit or got fired. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so he
Just
came
wasn't
on,
having it.
wasn't happening, and then cinematographer that came on was Jan de Bont. So
Oh, there we go.
yeah, so there we go.
That
Can't
is
go
pretty
wrong with
cool.
those two. Yeah.
You mentioned here too. There's a remake going on with this, which I'm surprised they haven't done one already. To be honest with you.
Yeah, they made an announcement a while ago, and then that never nothing happened. And then earlier this year, Netflix, I think it is, announced that they had the rights and are going to remake it. And then strangely enough, I don't know, Darren Aronofsky is in talks
Wow,
to direct.
that is a
And
weird one.
so speaking of uh, strange directing choices, uh, Lewis Teague seems much better, not better choice, more reasonable choice. Kind of makes sense versus the guy that directed Pi and
Yeah,
Requiem
Black
for a Dream,
Swan,
yeah, and stuff like that is now directing Cujo.
Noah.
It's like, what are we gonna have here? I don't know.
I
So,
don't know. Do you think
but
that's a tough movie to redo with animal rights people these days? Like, I could see people not. I don't know.
uh,
It's a different audience today.
yeah, I don't know. And are people gonna care?
Yeah,
This is where I
I
go
don't. Yeah,
back.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
is it? And I go back to some things like both the novel and the movie. Is like, does this work in 2025? Like, can we where we can't find people, or like nobody know, like, or do we need to set it back in 81 or 83?
Yeah.
Do these stories work better in the time periods where they were written? because I think if they're doing Cujo 2025 and like, are we gonna have to like, there's no cell service out here, like, are we gonna do that BS? Like,
Yeah, how do you do
y-
that? Because the
y-
cell phones change everything.
yeah, and so there's pieces like that. I was like, oh, I don't
I didn't think
know,
about
and
that. Good
yeah,
call.
so were people just like,
Yeah, what do you
I don't know.
do?
So we'll see.
They would
Well,
probably do the cell phone drops or something like that, and they can't get it.
maybe
But
there's a dead battery or something like that,
yeah,
and then the car won't. Where it's like, I think nowadays it's hard to get a car not to
it is. Yeah, no, it really has
work.
to be
Like
like
maybe
it's
it'll
gonna
be
work.
electric vehicle. I don't know.
Right, right.
May-
Yeah, good call.
this Tesla. Like, she drives up in a Tesla truck. They're trapped in a Tesla truck.
The
Uh,
dog's not even sick. He just
yeah,
hates the Tesla.
that's what I'm now thinking. So, uh,
You have favorite lines in this too, I see.
I do. I don't. I do. So obviously, so one, and I still kind of use this once in a while, even that makes no sense. So, if you remember, her husband is an ad campaign, and they have a cereal, and part of the thing is
Yeah.
like, nope, nothing wrong here. And then the dye they use in some of the food coloring or whatever causes
Yeah.
kids to pee or poop red dye, and
Yeah.
people thought it
That
was
was a
blood or whatever.
big
Yeah, it
thing in
was.
there.
Yeah, and so that's why he had to go out to New York or something like that. And so, and the reporter, they kind of whatever, they're just mocking her. It's like, nope, nothing wrong here. Well, not quite. And
Right.
and so it was kind of a point in the movie. So I still
Yeah.
use that.
I
Nope,
remember
nothing
that.
wrong here. Yeah.
Nope, nothing wrong
Um,
here.
and this is a pure audience line, so no spoilers, but like at one point, she gets the car started, after the first attack, and she has to let the car cool down or something like that. And then she's like, let's try it again. And she's all right, and she starts, and she starts pulling away, and she stops, and she looks at Cujo, it's like, fuck you, dog.
I remember that one.
And then
Oh,
of course the car dies, but
right.
it's a perfect line,
It is
and
perfect.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure in the new
Cujo.
version it'll be "fuck you, Cujo,"
Yeah, of course.
because yeah, versus 'cause.
Oh, it's so great.
So anyway, I need to bring that line back somehow. So
I think I'm gonna reread this. It's been a while, Rob. Bring it
it's
back,
been
Robert.
yeah, it's been a while as well. So now I'm kind of curious because I've seen the movie so many times. I was like, oh, didn't I didn't realize that the dog was supposed to be inhabited by a force or possessed or something.
I didn't
I
realize
don't
that, but
remember that. So, but
I remember Dodd. Uh, I'm
yeah,
gonna check it out. I haven't
because
seen it. I'm definitely gonna watch it again, but
yeah,
I've read it as a as an adolescent, so I'll
as an adolescent. So
it was
but yeah, so and I haven't been to. I know some friends have been to locations because it was shot in around like Mendocino and Petaluma, California. And then,
oh
if you're
cool.
familiar with Peggy Sue Got Married, she
Yeah.
goes to spend the night with her grandparents on their farm, and that is the same farm as Cujo.